It's a lifelong story that started when I was 12 years old. My stepfather took me to school and came home and shot himself. And that was the beginning of the end of my childhood. So no one told me anything about that when they brought me home from school, the police did. And after that, the way I found out is that I went out into the dining room and I heard the maids talking about it, and I dove under the sideboard, and I had a split. I think at that point, now that I know a little bit more, I had a psychotic split. And I came out from under that sideboard and I started laughing. And I went out into the kitchen and I laughed and laughed and laughed. And the maid said, "You know what happened?" And I said, "Oh yeah, but it'll be fine." And that thought process went on for years and years and years. And over the next 15 years, somehow, now that I know more about what we create, I lost 25 people, friends, loved ones, animals, parents, in the next 12 years. And so the message was, you get near me, you die. So I started getting really, really sick. I was on antibiotics for 13 years. I moved 20 times. I went to 20 different schools. My life was just nothing I could count on. I kept getting all kinds of different variations of my immune system. I had autoimmune, I had Epstein-Barr, I had chronic fatigue. I couldn't wake up for anything. I was sleeping 16, 18 hours a day, and I was living in Boulder and pretty much was living in the dark because I just was sleeping all the time. By this time, I'm in my early 30s, and I was at a point now where I couldn't figure out how to get better. I had seen almost every doctor, every kind of doctor, traditional, alternative, Chinese. I'd seen healers. I had been on Santum remedies at $125 a pop. I was seeing Reiki, NLP. I was being hypnotized. I went to Ojai and I was hypnotized for 4 days straight. Nobody could get to the bottom of this. I was seeing spiritual teachers. I had run out of options. I was eating organic, and I finally moved over to the Western Slope in Colorado. I had been living in Boulder, literally to die and live out my days at age 50. About 4 years ago, somebody said that there was a meditation, and I don't meditate. I never have meditated. It's never appealed to me. I never knew anything about it. I didn't know what it did. I didn't know anything about it. And I was like, I'm going to this. So it was actually somebody who had been studying with Dr. Joe in Boulder. And I was like, I want to know whatever there is because I'm out of options. So I went to this meditation that night. And after that, I thought, who is the person that created this? Where is this? And I decided that I was going to go. You had to do the progressive and the advanced at that time, and you had to do them both. And the only one I could find was in Tampa, where they were doing both of them back to back. So I went and I did these 2 meditations back to back. And then I went to the Cancun. And then I've done 8 of them so far. In the one in Santa Fe, I was able to get into the cage. And my life changed. There were all of those 27 people, and 2 horses and 2 dogs were part of that, who had died. And my thought was, you get near me, you die. And so intimacy and relationship and marriage and all that stuff had just completely, I wasn't attracting it. I didn't know how to do it. And it just felt like the more I liked somebody, the shyer I was, because I just could not bear another loss. So when I went into the cage, and I had been out on the golf course in the morning, and some thoughts had come in about, like, my mom had played golf, and I never connected to her. I'd lived and gone to boarding schools. I felt like I'd been farmed out my whole life. And I thought, I got to get through this. Somehow I got to get through this. There's an amazing community here, and I don't know how to relate to them. And when I went into the cage, out of the 7 people who were there, 3 of them had a moment where they just went out of body. And I was like, no, guys, don't leave. Of all the people and all the times, that, please, I mean, I need you guys here. And then I had this other thought. I thought, they're in the field. They're creating all this energy. I guess it's okay, because that's just what's going on. I can be okay with that. And as soon as I gave it up, just right in that moment, because I wanted them to have their experience, this movie started going across up behind my eyes. As I was lying on the floor, I had my eye shades on, and all 27, they came across my vision right in front of me, right there while I was lying down. And every single one of them, horses and dogs and people and friends, and the guy I almost married, and my best friend who'd fallen off a horse and died 3 days later, and it was just like one after another. And they all stopped in front of me and they just said, we've never been gone. We've been here your entire life. We just didn't know how to get your attention. And we didn't know how to talk to you, to tell you, we've been looking out for you, we've been with you, we miss you, we love you, and we're here for you, and we are always going to be here for you. And they came in and they circled around me and they scrunched in, and the dogs and the horse and all my friends, and I'm lying down and they're all right there, all 27 of them. It was a big, huge puppy pile. And they're all just going like, oh my God, we're so glad to see you again. We missed you so much. And when I mean, of course, it was a flood, it was Niagara. And when I came out of that, it was like, do you have any idea how many great friends I have? You should be so lucky. Maybe one day you'll get to meet them. And I've carried them with me forever. Just since that day, in that beautiful day in that cage. And it was just like, from then on, they've been with me forever. I brought them into my Healy cage yesterday, which I was so excited about, because now I take them everywhere I go. And they all fit in somehow, my car, wherever it is that I'm going, they're all come with me. And my energy has completely changed to where I don't have to worry about people leaving me anymore, because I've got this huge cadre of people. And now people are coming into my life. I just was in Italy for 3 months, and it actually was 2 months, but on the very last day, the night before I was going to take my car back to Paris and fly home, I was at a restaurant and I took myself out to a really fabulous dinner, and this couple walked in and their couch was right up against where my chair was. It was Christmas and there was a big tree and the whole restaurant was lit by candlelight, and the man of the couple said, when we were talking about where do you come from and who are you and all that, and he said, I live about 40 minutes away and I have an agriturismo, which is a big, beautiful country inn kind of thing. They have them all over Europe. And he said, I'd love for you to see it. And I said, well, I would love to see it. He said, it's really special, because I said, I've been staying at them all over Europe, but I couldn't find one around. And he said, I'd love for you to see it. You'd be most welcome. So 2 days later, I went to see it. By the time I got there, he had his chef whip up a 6-course meal. We talked for 3 hours. And at the end, he said, well, you have 3 choices. You can stay here at my agriturismo. I can find a place for you in town, or you can stay at my place. And I thought, oh dear, how am I going to say that and not, sound like a wanton woman? And I said, well, what would you do if you were me? He said, well, I'd stay at my place, of course. And I said, well, then so be it. And so I followed him home in my car, and we had the most beautiful next few days. And he said, well, aren't you going to have to leave? And I was like, well, do you want me to leave? And he said, no. And I said, well, I don't want to leave either. And I never left. And I stayed for a month, and he is the person I've been waiting for my whole life. And then of course, I have to say that the work of doing the work and doing the meditations, I think I just must be the worst meditator. That's the expression I've always had. That's just not your gig. And I just do it anyway. The days that I don't do it, it's totally night and day. The days that I do it, it's like it flows. It's like everything happens. I'm taking care of people and things, and tons of energy. I'm going to be 72 in a couple of weeks, and I feel like I'm in my 50s, and I feel like I'm invincible. I can do anything I want to do. I can go anywhere I want to go. I've got my brain back. I've got my energy back. I'm leaning into life. I'm creating. I'm back in life. I have a life now. And it's not just because of this wonderful man I met in Italy. It's been going on since Santa Fe, which was a couple years ago. And it's like I'm full on. I'm all there. It's totally awesome.